Hello and welcome to News Round, a recap of stories that made headlines during the week. Coming up, federal government and state governors consider creation of state policing as security challenges in the country worsen. And the Senate sets up a Constitution Review Committee to review laws in the area of state policing, among others. Nigerian Labour Congress will hold two-day nationwide protests on February 27th and 28th over hardship experienced by Nigerians and the security situation. Plus, Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny dies in prison while serving a 19-year jail term. And that's News Round in View. We'll begin News Round with a proposed solution by the government to the worsening security situation in the country. Against the backdrop of growing concerns on the issue, the president and state governors have agreed to consider the possibility of establishing a state police in a bid to address the situation. This followed an emergency meeting convened by President Bola Tinubu to consider the rising cost of food and insecurity across the country.
President Bola Tinubu arriving at the council chamber for this emergency meeting. Present are the vice president, some ministers, the national security advisor, and state governors. Top on the agenda is the issue of security and the rising cost of food across the country. Over an hour later, the Minister of Information and some governors emerged from the meeting to brief State House correspondents on the resolutions reached. The minister outlines decisions taken to ensure more investment in agriculture and address the hoarding of commodities.
At this point that the nation requires food to be brought out to the people so that we can control prices and put food on the table of most Nigerians. Other commodity traders are busy hoarding these commodities so that Nigerians will suffer or they will make more money as a result. So the governors and Mr. President have taken this decision that security agencies will cooperate or collaborate with the state governors to ensure that this ends. A decision has also been taken that in the interest of our country, there will be no need for food importation at this point. What we are seeing now is just a temporary difficulty that will soon go away. Therefore, the solution to it is by continuous investment in agriculture so that food can be made available to all Nigerians.
The meeting also agreed that there has been an improvement in the security situation in the country. However, they also agree more needs to be done.
We have seen significant improvement. In Borno, for example, areas where farmers have not been able to cultivate as a result of security, those farmers have now returned to their farms. It is also the same thing in Jigawa and many parts of the country. Mr. President and the state governors have also discussed the possibility of improving the numeric strength of forest rangers, to train them so that they can keep our forest and our borders very safe. Now, there is also a discussion around the issue of state police. The federal government and the state governments are mulling the possibility of setting up state police.
The president and governors also agreed to address the issue of youth unemployment in the country.
Mr. President has also called on the state governors to join hands with the federal government to provide more for our people, especially the teeming youth population. There is going to be a joint program between the state governments and the federal government to ensure that our teeming youth population is gainfully employed so that we reduce to the barest minimum the issue of unemployment in the country.
The meeting is expected to hold more frequently to resolve the issues as well as ensure improved coordination of responses to national interventions. From the Presidential Villa, Lanre Lasese, Channels Television News.
And still on security matters, the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Kayode Egbetokun, is confident that banditry will cease once the newly launched Special Intervention Squad takes off in all 36 states. Mr. Egbetokun made the assertion during a two-day working visit to Bauchi State. He emphasized his commitment to creating a professional and competent police force to restore the Nigerian police to its former glory.
The Inspector General of Police, Mr. Kayode Egbetokun, is on his first official visit to Bauchi State. He begins with a courtesy call to Governor Bala Mohammed. Expectedly, ensuring the security of citizens and the nation took center stage. The IGP elaborates on his plans for enhanced policing across the country, particularly through the implementation of the Special Intervention Squad.
By the time the SIS fully takes off, the days of the bandits and other criminals terrorizing our communities are numbered. Bauchi State, though a peaceful state, but we don't want the peace of Bauchi to be broken in any way. Therefore, Bauchi State has been selected as one of the pilot states.
Governor Mohammed points out the importance of embracing modern methods, including the use of technology in policing.
We will implore the presidency to help you with the resources to deploy technology to complement the deficit you have in human capital to police us, to police the country. Definitely, I'm a willing partner, a willing tool for you.
From that visit, the IGP proceeds to the Bauchi Police Headquarters for an interactive session with officers and men of the Bauchi Command.
Sir, there is the need to make use of drones for geolocation of criminal hideout and to upgrade our security architecture and operational assault.
Addressing the officers, the IGP shares his vision for the force.
We will do everything possible to restore the past glory of the police. But anywhere you go to, people will see you and they will respect you. They will see you and they will admire you. That's the kind of police we want.
He concludes his trip with the commissioning of various police projects in the state. Hajara Aliyu, Channels Television News.
And now to the National Assembly, where the Senate has constituted the 1999 Constitution Amendment Committee to be chaired by the Deputy Senate President, Senator Barrow Jibrin. The President of the Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, who announced the composition of the committee during plenary, underscored the need for the Senate to review aspects of the Constitution against the backdrop of current realities. He stated that the committee would comprise one senator from each state and one from each geopolitical zone of the country, and is expected to be inaugurated on February the 20th.
The President of the Senate commences second plenary for the week after a nearly 10-hour marathon meeting with service chiefs hours ago. A minute's silence is observed by the lawmakers for the late Herbert Wigwe and 4 others who died in a helicopter crash in the USA after a motion moved by Senator Orwell Onyeso from Rivers State.
Rest in perfect peace. Amen.
The lawmakers also paid tributes.
But Herbert was beyond a banker. Herbert was everywhere. Herbert was in everything that was going to add value to humanity.
Mr. Ogubanjo has always been a major corporate player in our environment and somebody who we are all very, very proud.
Again, the subject of the review of the 1999 Constitution is back in focus as a committee is announced.
There is need for us to touch on some aspects of the Constitution to bring them in line with current realities, particularly with the era of artificial intelligence. We are taking one senator per state because we are talking about a constitutional amendment. 1 senator per state, and then we are also taking 1 senator representing each geopolitical zone.
Another motion sponsored by Senator Osita Izunaso calling for an investigation into the foreign exchange backlog, particularly the invalid $2.4 billion transfer out of the $7 billion backlog owed banks, is suspended after a brief debate ensued.
It is important that we investigate all of this and see how best to correct all of it. It is in the state of transparency that we believe the current leadership too is trying, or the CBN is trying to do.
Why do you want the Senate to look at the motion before you do your work? Is it that the Committee on Banking has failed?
After the back and forth, a decision is taken.
But we have also consulted amongst ourselves, and we have agreed that there is need for brevity. There is need for brevity, and that we would like to have poignant points for the knowledge of the Nigerian public. For instance, the assertions by the CBN governor on the $7 billion, and the Nigerian public will also want to know more about the Anchor Borrowers Program and the expenses incurred.
We will step down the motion and consult more before presenting the motion.
The Senate promises to revisit the motion it considers critical to the survival of the nation's finances at a later date. From the National Assembly, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
And to legal matters and new revelations from a trial of former Central Bank Governor Godwin Emefiele, the former Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, has told the Federal Capital Territory High Court that the signature, which purportedly emanated from the former President Muhammadu Buhari for the payment of foreign election observers, was fake. Dr. Mustafa testified as a second prosecution witness in the ongoing trial of Mr. Emefiele, which he accused of impersonating the former SGF to obtain the sum of $6.2 million.
The former Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, is a second prosecution witness to testify in the trial of the former CBN Governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele. Mr. Emefiele is standing trial in a $6.2 million fraud. He was accused by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission of impersonating the former SGF to obtain the said sum. At the proceeding, Mr. Mustafa clarifies that he knew nothing about the transaction until he left office. He further says the documents did not emanate from the office of the former President Muhammadu Buhari, as he did not carry a reference number or the seal of authority. Mr. Mustafa further told the court that in all the correspondences he received from the former president, he never concluded with, "Please accept with my highest regard." He pointed out that his signature was a failed attempt at reproducing the former president's signature. He adds that the federal government has no business with payment of foreign election observers. In his further testimony, he says the Federal Executive Council decisions are not transmitted by letters, but through extras after conclusions are adopted. And as the custodian of the records of FEC, the president will not be referring conclusions to him. Mr. Mustafa denied knowledge of any special task force on logistics, as well as anyone by the name Jibrin Abubakar, Principal Officer 1 in the SGF's office. The trial judge, Justice Hamza Mwazu, subsequently adjourned the case to the 7th, 11th, and 25th of March for continuation of trial. Emanuela Ekele, Channels Television News.
And when Newsround returns, Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny dies in prison. Details later. Just stay with us. Welcome back to Labour Matters Now. The Nigeria Labour Congress has declared a two-day nationwide protest to hold on February the 27th and 28th over rising costs of living and insecurity in the country. The leadership of the Labour Congress has also asked state chairmen of its affiliate members to mobilize for the action. Speaking after the emergency National Executive Council meeting of the Congress, President of the NLC, Mr. Joe Ojero, explained that the protest would be a prelude to a nationwide strike if the government refuses to address their demands.
The NEC in session considered the unfortunate state of the nation, food suffering, pervading the nation, the general crisis of living, the outrage expressed by majority, and the increased attendant fears of the continued consequences of these policies and the persistent refusal of the government to implement the tenets of the October Agreement. The NEC in session also took notice of the wise decision of the National Administrative Council of the Congress to demand that the agreement be implemented. The NEC in session declares a two-day national protest on 27th and 28th of February to demonstrate outrage on the mounting hardship and insecurity around the nation. If our demands are not met after the nationwide protest, to issue a 7-day notice that will expire on the 2nd day of March 2024 to the federal government, after which an indefinite nationwide strike will ensure. If the Nigeria naira continues to depreciate, 1 million naira will be a child's play to the minimum wage. As of today, we are talking of about 1,500, 1,600. So if it continues that way, 1 million naira will be too small for the worker. Does that not make sense? You know, why are we scared when we say pay a worker 1 million? When those in National Assembly are collecting 16, 17, 30 million. So why are we so discriminatory if you hear 1 million for a worker? So if somebody can collect 15, 16 million for a job, not even commensurate to the job that the worker is doing, why can't a worker get 1 million? In a situation whereby you need a bag full of naira to get a handful of goods. So let nobody be scared about that. Unless it is checked, the demand will have no end. And the minimum wage, we're going to insist for the review to be annual. Or else if you collect any money and the value of the currency is changing per hour, it will not make any sense, and it will be illogical, you know, to return that amount for the next 4 or 5 years.
And the president has conferred national honors on members of the Super Eagles and the technical team after commending them for making the nation proud at the just concluded Africa Cup of Nations in Côte d'Ivoire. Speaking during a reception in honor of the players at the State House, President Bola Tinubu praised the team for the exemplary display of unity, determination, and resilience on the field. The president also announced the donation of a flat and a plot of land to each member of the team.
President Bola Tinubu arriving at the council chamber for the reception in honor of the players and technical team of the Super Eagles.
Please,
the reception had in attendance the Vice President, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, some ministers, and other government officials. The Minister of Sports applauds the support and encouragement provided by the President.
That the entire team remains very grateful for all the support it received from you. For the first time in almost forever years, we've gone for a major competition. We've come back without any crisis, without any complaint, without any issues whatsoever.
The vice captain of the team thanked the president for the support and promised that the team will strive to do better.
Yeah, we gave all we had. We did our best onto the final. I wish that we were here carrying the trophy for you, and all we can promise that we'll be continue to working harder, and the next time we meet, hopefully next year, we'll be bringing home a gold medal.
The president said the team made the country proud and had taught Nigerians lessons on resilience, togetherness, and diversity.
We salute your resilience. You lifted our spirit. You made us proud. You made us smile as Nigerians. And trust second, you are a true captain. You are a warrior.
Osimhen is a Trojan horse. Lukman didn't look at anybody. I enjoy your camaraderie. I wish Nigerian politics is like that, using our diversity for development as a nation.
The president then confers national honors on members of the team.
As the President of Federal Republic of Nigeria, to all of you, I'm honoring you with national honor, members of the Order of Niger. A promise of one flat each for every one of you. A plot of land for each and every player.
One after the other, the players made their way to receive their awards from the president. After which, group photographs were taken. The president also promised to promote sports and youth development, even as he committed to attracting greater private sector investment to the Nigerian Professional Football League. From the presidential villa, Lanre Lasese, Channels Television News.
And to food matters now. Lack of support for small-scale farmers, insecurity, poor funding and poor linkages from farm to market have been identified as a growing gap limiting access to food for Africans. The African Union Chairman on Food Systems, Mr. Ibrahim Maiki, highlighted the challenges at a forum on food security at the State House. Mr. Maiki is seeking more commitment from government at all levels to change the narrative.
How to implement policies that will accelerate food availability and affordability within the African continent is the crux of this meeting, as convened by the African Union Development Agency, the new Partnership for Africa's Development. The event is coming after some protests over the high cost of living in the country. However, speakers at this forum highlight what should form the interest of government to boost agriculture and reduce hunger.
Together, we need to ensure that food is available and affordable for all by supporting the smallholder farmers, project through large-scale investment on forest landscape and ecosystem restoration, as well as the provision of farm input.
Africa is estimated to have a food import bill of $50 million annually, with 250 million of its population experiencing hunger. Experts believe smallholder farmers hold the key to addressing the gap. However, these farmers have their challenges.
Our first revolution calls for a fundamental change in our approach to food consumption. It emphasizes championing sustainable diets that prioritize nutrition while minimizing food waste.
The present administration has set an ambitious target of lifting 150 million Nigerians out of poverty. The plan is to assist farmers with the tools and funds to produce more food. The governor of Nasarawa State also explains efforts by his administration to empower farmers in his state.
Under our administration, we have not only introduced new policies, but we have bolstered existing institutional framework to attract major investors, such as Olam Rice, Nigeria, where they have their 120,000 metric tons capacity mill, and they are doubling it this year.
This two-day conference is expected to develop actionable plans that will accelerate food production across the continent.
And we end news round on a rather sad note as Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny has died in prison inside the Arctic Circle. The prison service in the Yamalo-Nenes district, which reported the incident, said he had felt unwell after a walk on Friday. The prison said in a statement that it immediately called an emergency medical team which tried to resuscitate Mr. Navalny without success. Seen as President Vladimir Putin's most outspoken critic, Navalny was incarcerated on a 19-year jail term for offences widely considered politically motivated. Late last year, he was moved to an Arctic penal colony, considered one of the toughest jails. While the cause of death is being established, Navalny's spokesperson, Kira Yarmys, said that they do not have any confirmation yet of his death. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says if Navalny's death is confirmed, it only underscores the weakness and rot at the heart of the system that Putin has built. European Council President Charles Michel has said the bloc considers the Russian regime to bear sole responsibility for Navalny's tragic death. Now that's News Round for the week. Thank you for watching. I'm Ladi Williams. Bye for now.